Now to the story that's rocked the sports world and beyond in the last 24 hours. Rutgers University men's basketball coach Mike Rice fired today after video surfaced showing him abusing his players. Now the question becomes, does the punishment stop at him?
Now with the world watching, today the university president and athletic director acted. Too little, too late, says sports attorney and Rutgers alumni Exavier Pope.
Now the university is called into question far as institutional control. And now you're inviting the NCAA to potentially investigate your entire school.
.43. Rutgers University fired its basketball coach after video showed him abusing his players. These videos show Coach Mike Rice pushing, kicking, and throwing balls at his players during practices. He also uses profanity and homophobic slurs. These videos were shot in November, and Rutgers suspended Rice for a few games during the season. The university fired him yesterday after ESPN aired the videos.
There's no explanation for what's on those films because there is no excuse for it. I was wrong. And I want to tell everybody who's believed in me that I'm deeply sorry for the pain and the hardship that I've caused them.
Rutgers athletic director had Rice go to anger management classes as part of his suspension. Yesterday he said that he was wrong to think that rehabilitation was in everyone's best interest.
Rutgers alum and sports attorney Exavier Pope joins us now to talk more about the controversy. Thanks for joining us here.
Thank you for having me this morning. Good morning.
So I think it's interesting they're saying, that this remediation did not work. Yet in December they renew the guy's contract for $700,000. What's your take on that?
I think it's unfortunate. This is not the first incident that he had. This is in his past. So Tim Pernetti talked about this being a first-time deal. Right. That's not the case. And so it's interesting also with the Tyler Clementi situation with him committing suicide based on the bullying with that situation. It was surprising that the school wouldn't be more sensitive to that issue.
Just tapping into your legal expertise. Guys that were abused by him verbally and you could argue physically, players, is there any legal recourse for them? Do you think there would be any legal recourse for them now that he's been fired?
You have to think about students signing the letter of intent, getting the benefit of the bargain and getting a good education, and maybe them not being given the opportunity to do that by going to school. So they potentially may have a civil suit on that end, but maybe an assault charge, and the school being responsible for that from the civil side as well.
The president of Rutgers said, "Hey, I didn't see the video." Do you buy that?
That's tough because we're hearing reports that maybe he saw it in November and now he saw it only on Tuesday. I think there's an information gap. And so I think that more investigation is needed to determine really what did he know and when did he know it.
Now we have these faculty members and a dean calling for his resignation. You think these guys, their jobs are in jeopardy, the top tier here at the administration?
Absolutely. I think that at the very least an extended leave of absence for Tim Pernetti for an investigation as to what steps he may have taken and whether his actions went far enough, essentially.
When I was first looking at that, the one thing I couldn't help but think was, if they taped every one of Indiana's practices in the 1980s, what would we have seen a guy like Bob Knight doing? And to some degree, I'm sure some of the things that came out of this guy's mouth were probably not much different than Bobby Knight 15, 20 years ago. Do you think what he's done, and you see on this tape, is worse, or do you think that times have changed and given, what's happened to Knight as a coach, there's less tolerance for what you see here?
I think that's a great question, Pat. Look at social media, the instantaneous response to things that happen. ESPN Outside the Lines, the response was huge. And I think that people have more access to information. So you can't do these things behind closed doors anymore. So I really think that's the difference as far as the times being a change and more information being shared.
But to Pat's point, what does it say about the culture of basketball today, probably all of college sports, that it takes the media to police this?
I think that's unfortunate, but it also gives the opportunity for institutions to self-police themselves. So if you do this, you will be found out.
Is the NCAA capable of doing that?
Well, Mark Emmert, he's come under fire recently, and he's skated past a few incidents. I think that the NCAA does have the responsibility to do something like that potentially in the future.
So what are you hearing about these players that are talking about transferring based on the fact that that Rice is out?
We have a local guy, Vincent Garrett, went to Marshall High School, 6'5" guy, possibly transferring. We'll see. He hasn't talked about it, but there's been rumors that he's transferring. And I think it's a good idea, potentially. But unfortunately, it hurts the school.
Yeah.
And NCAA potentially might be investigating the school institutional control if you're not taking the right steps. So.
And this coach coached in Chicago in years past, and you would think, as big as sports have become moneymakers for some of these schools, that the president, that people wouldn't have known his background. This didn't just start this year at Rutgers, that people would have known. Does that put more pressure on the president and other assistant coaches to be responsible, who perhaps stood there and said nothing and certainly did know about it?
Absolutely. And I think that Robert Barchi may have known about this guy's past. This is someone you're hiring, essentially. But you're looking at wins and losses. He took Robert Morris to 2 NCAA appearances. But the funny thing is, he didn't do good.
Yeah.
11-3 to start of the season. Tanked a little bit from there. Not a good record. So he just on basketball alone, he should have been fired. I'm just saying.
Exavier Pope, thank you for joining us this morning.
You.
Appreciate your analysis. Great stuff.
Louisville basketball player Kevin Ware is now talking about the gruesome injury that ended his season. Ware broke his leg during a game last weekend. He jumped to block a shot, landed awkwardly.
Hired basketball coach Mike Rice after a videotape broadcast yesterday on ESPN showed Rice grabbing and throwing balls at players in practice and using gay slurs. The video prompted sharp criticism from Governor Chris Christie and the head of the New Jersey State Assembly. Rutgers athletic director Tom Pernetti was given a copy of the video in late November, but chose to suspend Rice instead of firing him. Joining us to discuss this is David Roth, editor at The Classical, and Exavier Pope, a sports and entertainment attorney and Rutgers alumnus. Welcome to you both. And Exavier, as an alum of the school, how does a story like this make you feel?
It makes me feel terrible. Essentially, we have our values, the reputation, the brand of the school called into question, essentially, about not only the actions of Mike Rice, but institutional control. Clearly, everyone who saw the video agrees that Mike Rice should have been fired. But apparently, Tim Pernetti didn't think so at the time. And so it took the president looking at the video and then outrage on Twitter to finally come to the conclusion that Mike Rice needed to go immediately.
Yeah, we have a comment here from Winthorpe saying Pernetti was shocking last night as he defended the 3-game suspension while the video was shown, right? So there was, a $50,000 fine and a 3-game suspension. And do you think that was enough, or did this warrant firing right from the start?
I absolutely don't think it was the right decision to make. I wrote about this morning about how Tim Pernetti should be next, essentially, because now the focus is on the university instead of Mike Rice and his actions. And that's unfortunate.
Yeah, and from a legal standpoint, do you think Rutgers can at all be held liable for, the assaults that Rice was putting on his players?
There's question as to that. I do believe the floodgates have opened to some civil litigation as relates to the players. They bargained for, when they signed a letter of intent, to receive education. They didn't get that. Mike Rice is part of that education. So you could easily see maybe some suits in regards to maybe the assaults, but in addition to not getting the benefit of the bargain of the education as well.
Well, thank you both for joining us. What we've both written is in our resource well right beneath me in HuffPost Live. If you see something, say something. And today, Tim Pernetti is wishing he did just that. According to numerous reports, Rutgers athletic director Tim Pernetti is out of a job following the controversy over basketball coach Mike Rice. Several months ago, Rice was videotaped verbally and physically abusing players in practice. The tape was brought to Pernetti's attention, but he chose to fine and suspend Rice instead of firing him. The tape was then aired on ESPN, which prompted national criticism and outrage. Joining us to discuss this is sports and entertainment attorney and Rutgers alumnus Exavier Pope. So Exavier, was there really any hope for Pernetti in this case?
No hope at all. Essentially, his performance on ESPN outside the lines was terrible. He basically tried to defend himself and defend Mike Rice. And when you go back on the evidence, it was clear that he made the wrong decision. And it was no way of saving Tim Pernetti at that time.
We have a comment here from Crooklandism saying, I think this is the right move just for the message it sends to the campus and maybe other universities that bullying will not be tolerated and a lackadaisical approach to it won't be either.
You have to consider on that campus, there was a bullying of Tyler Clemency.
Right.
And so the school had notice of bullying on its campus, and then you have your own staff bullying other people. It's unfortunate and just terrible situation there at the school.
And as an alum, I think we spoke about this the other day as well when we talked about the Mike Rice tape. How does this make you feel as an alum?
It makes me feel sick. I think that I immediately contacted the dean of my law school, contacted Robert Barchi, and said that Tim Pernetti had to go, at least have an extended leave of absence to investigate his handling of Mike Rice. Unfortunately, he was not able to survive the public outcry.
And you've spoken to other alums about this. What do they think? Do they think there's going to be another shoe to drop? I know the university president was also aware of the tape back when Pernetti was first made aware of it too.
Yeah, well, there's reports that maybe Robert Barchi was made aware of it back in November, and then he says he was only made aware of it on Tuesday. If he's lying, he's gone.
Wow, big shakeup. I want to bring in our community now. We have with us Alexis, Donna, and Ellie. Any of you guys, you've seen the video. You saw the ball being thrown at the kids. You've seen shoving. You've heard slurs. So this isn't just everyday coaching behavior, but what can we expect to happen as fallout beyond Rutgers from this video?
Well, I just want to be clear. I don't think this is the case of bullying. This is a case of assault, right? I mean, he was physically assaulting these players, and I think that sometimes, I think in our modern way, we have gotten a little soft about these kinds of issues, and so I think that Pernetti was probably thinking like, oh, this is just old school coaching. We were talking earlier. This is like something that Bobby Knight might have done. And I think what he failed to do and what we need to not fail to do is to understand that this goes beyond, hey, buddy, get your butt in gear. This is physically assaulting children. And that really is the bridge too far to me.
I think that when this boils down to institutional control, either the school had to get rid of Pernetti, or the NCAA may have been coming in to potentially investigate the program. And this still potentially may happen.
I was about to say, don't you think that the NCAA should still come in and investigate the program? I mean, the NCAA will hit people for giving too many free lunches to scholar athletes. This is something that actually affects scholar athletes. Don't you think the NCAA kind of has to step in?
I think that the NCAA may step in. And I think that if Robert Barchi lied, then you look at a system of institutional control, and that's the line. You don't want that attached to your school, and that unfortunately may happen.
Well, and I think we're in a world of cameras now, and I don't know all the things we would have seen with the Bobby Knight, but what impressed me was how out of control he was almost all the time. I mean, we're talking about mental illness. There was something about him. It wasn't just being intense about the sport and wanting people to improve. He was out of control all the time, constantly grabbing and throwing and screaming. So, anger management courses, he would have had about 35 years of those.
You have to also realize the assistant coach was called Baby Rice.
Oh my God, that guy was, I want to strangle that guy.
Yeah.
So he wasn't even fired. So it's unfortunate they let his actions continue as well.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, look, I have a 6-month-old son, and I want him to be able to play some sports and have great experiences like I did throughout high school playing sports. I swear, if I saw a coach do that to my kid, we would come to blows. That would be the only kind of acceptable way of handling it almost.
Yeah, there's a comment here from Tough Truth saying, oh, he should have fired the head basketball coach for this. If I sent my son to that school and saw my kid abused like this, the story would be about me having kicked the head coach's arse. But guys, is there any rehabilitation here? We see Bobby Knight doing commercials, doing commentary, being a very revered member of the college basketball community, despite what we saw his behavior at Indiana. So is there any rehabilitation for Pernetti or for Rice in this situation, given that, of course, neither of them had the stature, the many wins, the institution of a Bobby Knight?
Well, I do think Pernetti has a chance for rehabilitation because he did not have the past of anger management issues, say Mike Rice did, but he was nominated for the Sport Business Journal Award for AD of the Year. And as well, he considered the cream of the crop, essentially helped the Rutgers get to the Big Ten. and raised revenue $52.5 million of the school. So I think there's a chance for his rehabilitation. Mike Rice, he had a history of problems, and he was not a successful coach. So I don't know if he'll land as softly as maybe Pernetti will.
Well, thank you guys, Xavier, Alexis, Donna, Ellie. It's been a pleasure, as always, to talk to each of you.
Former Major League Baseball slugger Jose Canseco's Twitter took a bizarre turn today. In a series of tweets, Canseco claimed that Las Vegas police visited him at his home and informed him that he was charged with rape. Canseco named the alleged victim in his initial tweets, but then deleted those messages. Joining us to discuss this is sports and entertainment attorney Exavier Pope. Xavier, what is going on here?
Just a set of bizarre tweets from Jose Canseco. Basically, he was interviewed by Las Vegas police as a person of interest in regards to a alleged sexual assault. Some of his tweets reference a young lady who has 6 children. He is a fitness instructor from Vancouver, but some of those tweets have been taken down. But one of his most recent tweets mentions her by name once again. And so we have an unfortunate situation. So Jose Canseco is now talking about games and some of the other things about moving on with his life. So this situation is unfolding as we speak.
Right, and we have some of those tweets. This part's redacted. Breaking news, this is a first, folks. Las Vegas police was just at my house. I've been charged with rape by a blank from Las Vegas. Then continuing on, all media welcome to this drama-filled event. Did I rape blank or is she lying? Stay tuned to another day in the life of Jose Canseco. I think we should start this off with a polygraph exam just to get the ball rolling. Blank told the police that I drugged her and then raped her. Let's find out what really happened. If you were his attorney, would you be cautioning him against such tweets?
I absolutely would. Any statements that Jose Canseco now makes is public record, and could essentially be used against him in a court of law. And so he would be best advised not to tweet about ongoing criminal investigation, essentially. He's not necessarily charged with a crime, but he is a person of interest. And he does have to come in, essentially, and talk to police and give them information. And an attorney is someone that would guide him and instruct him as to what he should say and how to cooperate with the proper authorities.
Xavier, I want to read you this comment coming in from one of our community members, Maurice Tracy, who says, he named the alleged victim disgusting. I feel echoes of Kobe here. Did we learn nothing there about why we have rape shield laws? Talk to me a little bit about that, about the decision to name the woman who placed these allegations.
Absolutely. If you were his attorney, if I was his attorney, I would have completely told him not to mention the person by name. You see, rape shield laws protect victims of sexual assault crimes, including rape. And so the fact that he mentions this person puts him in a position where he doesn't have court of a public opinion on his side. He will look as if he has done things wrong. And no matter what he's tried to present himself to the public, he looks worse off now than ever before.
I'm going to read this final comment coming in from I'm Dropping Dimes, who says, Facebook and Twitter are a celebrity PR person's / attorney's worst nightmare, especially when you have someone like this who's non-compliant. Thank you so much for joining us, Xavier.
Thank you so much for having me.
Coming up next, Chris Christie speaks out about the Moore tornado.